Welcome back, Rum fam. Today in store, I've got another rum tasting for you, and we are going El Dorado 8-year-old. Why have I picked El Dorado 8-year-old? Why have I picked El Dorado to start off with? I think for me, especially in the last sort of 4 or 5 months, El Dorado has been the most forgotten about brand that I have behind the bar. I just completely overlook it for some reason. And the 8-year-old is one of those rums that I used to use all the time. But I just completely gone off my radar these days. So I thought I would revisit and I would do the rum tasting review. Remember, the whole focus for this channel in these videos, I'm basically trying to help you on your rum journey, but focusing on rums. In all guises, it will predominantly be proper rums, but in all guises, we'll get some flavoured rums, we'll get some spiced rums on the go as well. But under £50, essentially. I don't want to get into proper expensive stuff. Anything under £50 is fair game for me. But the other caveat is, I want them to be permanent stocks. I want my thinking in my head to be, if I finish this bottle, I would quite happily buy another bottle. I don't want to get to the end of a bottle of rum and think, oh, well, that's a bit dull and boring now. It's, you know, it's finished. It's a limited release. There is no more of it. I don't want to get that. I want to be happy in the knowledge that every single rum I try, I could buy that again this time next year and be quite happy. So that's the focus of this channel. Just a quick nod to these over here at the end of the kind of the retasting of what I'm going to walk through, because I know you guys are going to be like mixing drinks and cocktails. So I'm also going to tell you my opinions of the Coke, a rum and ginger, a daiquiri, a rum fashioned, and a rum punch. But let's get into tasting and reviewing, if you like. I don't want to call them rum reviews. I want to call them rum tastings, because I don't want to put you off something. I just want to give you the idea of what it tastes like. So El Dorado 8-year-olds. Who are El Dorado? Basically, Demerara Distillers Limited, Guyana. They are responsible for a hell of a lot of rums. For instance, I'm not saying DDL responsible, but there's a lot of their rums get used in other products. Woods, Pussers, there's Black Tot, there's rums that have gone into plantation OFTD, all come out of Guyana, DDL. Some of the spiced rums, my mate Hursty with his 2 Swallows, his bombs and his grenades. We've got Ed with his Belgrove rums. They are all DDL, Demerara Distillers Limited, Guyana rums. And what is so special about Demerara rums? Don't think of Demerara sugar that we get in the UK, because that's just essentially more or less refined sugar, raw sugar. And basically Demerara in Guyana refers to the area. It's the River Demerara, the distilleries right on there. They grow the sugar cane on the banks. So I've never been, but from what I know, they grow this sort of sugar cane in those fields on the banks of the River Demerara, which kind of gives it that richer kind of vibe going on. So the sugar cane is different to start off with, allegedly. And then we get onto the fact that actually DDL are very well renowned for their different stills. So Port Morant is probably their most famous one. Port Morant is a wooden pot still, which gives a very, very different, it's like a double retort wooden pot still, something like that, but it gives off a very, very different vibe to other pot stills. You know, there isn't too many wooden pot stills around in the world, so we've got that. We've got Enmore, which is another kind of different sort of still. They're very famous stills in DDL. So they make, when you blend all rums together, they make very different rums. So this is a blended rum, fits very nicely into Smuggler's Cove category 3, which again is to say sort of aged blended rums. What else can we really tell you about it? As you can see, it's an 8-year-old rum there. Price, UK price, Master of Mole, £29.89. So just slightly under the £30 mark, which I think is pretty decent for an 8-year-old rum. Remember, Appleton 8-year-old, which is pretty damn decent as well, is roughly about the same price, like £28, £29. So I think that's a pretty decent price for that. So using the Rum X app, if you're in Europe, download it. If you haven't done already, it will be coming to the rest of the world. This is May 2022, so hopefully in the next few months and that will be worldwide. It's a cracking app and really helps to train your palate to see what you can look for, see what other people have kind of picked out in rums, but it's really, really helpful. So I'm using that framework for all of these sort of tasting videos. So first off, when we get to that, we kind of judge the colour in there. So when you click to taste it and review it on the app, you get the colour. I've called this mahogany. So I think, as you'll probably see from this, I think this is kind of a nice sort of rich mahogany colour rum. What do I get off the nose? So the notes I've made raisin dried fruits, caramel, woody vibes, vanilla and a nuttiness. I also, on the second, just I've not written it down, but I also do get a hint of chocolate on the nose there now, which I didn't before. And I think that's just because it's maybe opened out in the glass for slightly longer. That's the only thing. I definitely didn't get the chocolate earlier, and now I do. So raisin, dried fruits, caramel is a touch of woody undertone to it, vanilla and nutty, so nuttiness. Now, obviously the woody, for that, because I know there's quite a few of it, go, oh no, I don't like those sort of woody oaky rums. I'm not saying that this off the nose has come from the aging. I'm saying potentially it's come from Port Morant, the wooden pot still, which gives, as I say, a very rich, deeper flavour of rum to start off with. So that's, I'm assuming, where that nose comes from. All right. Just to point on the Rumex, a couple of people, I think it was about 4 or 5 people, have put banana and butterscotch. I'll be honest, I do not get any banana or any butterscotch in that at all. I get more caramel and vanilla, and that could be what people were sort of thinking of butterscotch there, rightly or wrongly. You know, there's no right or wrong. Everyone's got a different palate. But I definitely don't get banana on this, definitely don't. So I don't know there. So what have I given this? Scores out of 5, or ratings out of 5, I should say. Sweetness, it doesn't smell that it's going to be that sweet, okay, on the sort of nose. So I've given it a 1 out of 5 on the sweetness there. I think it's definitely more fruity forward. So fruit, I've given it a 3 out of 5. Woody oaky notes and roasted, both I've given 2s out of 5. So the emphasis for me is more on the fruits than it is on the sort of wood notes coming off there. So I think it's more fruity than it is woody. Floral, 1 out of 5. Spices, 1 out of 5. And I've given a rounded score of 2. As I say, there is very little spice coming out of there, very little floral notes, if any. Potentially would even go down to a 0 for floral. But I'll keep that at 1. So the emphasis for me, I don't think it's going to be sweet from the nose, but it is the emphasis is on the fruit notes. Now, tasting. Totally and utterly different, because on the tasting, although now I get the chocolate notes, it was the chocolate that I really picked up first and foremost on tasting. So what other notes I put, there's a slight hint of wood there, caramel, sweetness. I put rich Demerara, I'll come back to that in a minute, and vanilla. Okay, so the rich Demerara. Now, looking on Rumex, no one put Demerara, but quite a few people have put molasses. So for me, I'm pretty much, I haven't got that experience of smelling and tasting like molasses syrup, essentially. I haven't had syrup for flipping ages. But for me, in my head, that goes more towards Demerara sugar in the UK as we know it than molasses. But I'm guessing that's what that note is. But again, 3 or 4 people have put banana and butterscotch again. And I really do not get that on the tasting, really don't. But this is where it's totally different. I've written down, I'm going to retract this, because the only thing with the Rumex, you can't do half scores. I've put sweetness 4, and then I instantly thought, so 4 out of 5. I instantly thought, well, hang on a minute, Dom Papa Diplomatico, instantly going to be 5s out of 5s. Am I saying that's only one step down? No, but then I think it's sweeter than a 3. So potentially I would go 3.5 out of 5, but I can only give full scores. So what I'm saying is I think it's probably a 7 out of 10 on the sweetness scale there. I don't know how much sugar is added to this. We know El Dorado, DDL have stripped back their sugar, but we don't know whether they've stripped it back to nothing or whether they've stripped it back. It says 6 grams per litre on the Rumex app. I don't know whether that was 6 grams after it's been stripped back or 6 grams before it was stripped back. I don't know. But I really want to give that a 3.5 for sweetness. I think it's more sweeter than a 3. I don't think it's as sweet as a 4. But fruit, everything else now is very much on par. So fruit, I've given 2. The wood notes, I've given 2. Roasted, I've given 2. Spices, I've given 2. Rounded, I've given 2. It is a very kind of, no one thing really hits me more than anything. The wood is there the same amount as the fruit. The spices are there the same amount as the kind of the wood. The only thing I will say, there's not much floral notes to it. So very, very rounded. Finish, I've got medium, and the taste I get is kind of like vanilla and caramel on the finish. The finish is there for a couple of minutes. It's not a really long finish, but it's certainly not a short finish either. So medium. Now, summing up, I've given it a score of 72. I'm just going to have some water. 72 out of 100. And I cannot explain why. 72, just to clarify, 70 to 79 is good, 80 to 89 is very good, 60 to 69 is pleasant. For me, it's a lot higher than pleasant, but I don't think at this point, for me, it's actually close to being very good. And I cannot justify that. It's just something in my head. 72 was what instantly came up for me. And I can't think of another rum. I'll come on to this in a second. I can't think of another rum that compares to this either. So 72 is where I've given it, and I will sort of sum up in a second. But before we do that, I kind of want to get into the cocktails, the drinks. So we've got rum and coke and a rum and ginger, a daiquiri, a rum fashioned, and the rum punch. So for me, rum and coke, that's the best out of the simple highballs. I don't think it's a rum and ginger for me. I certainly wouldn't have that again as a rum and ginger ale. That's ginger ale, Canada Dry essentially. But the rum and coke is nice. It's got kind of those nice vibes that I like from a dark rum. And now I'm not saying it's the best dark rum that I've ever had in coke, but it has got nice vibes to it. Certainly not rating the ginger ale. Again, I'm certainly not rating that as a daiquiri. There is something that just is not a daiquiri for me. I do not like that. The rum fashion though, really like that as a rum fashion. I think that's really good. Just rum, tiny touch of sugar and Angostura bitters in there. Really like that. That is my favourite way to drink that. And the rum punch. Now, as I say, this rum is what I used to stock for my fruity rum punches, hurricanes, that sort of stuff. So the rum punch is lime, it's honey, it's strawberry, rum, Angostura bitters, passion fruit juice. There's something about this rum that just works exceptionally well in fruity rum punches. You don't lose the character. If I stuck like a 5-year-old Barbados in there, if I stuck Chairman's Reserve in there, if I stuck some Mount Gay, some Bacardi in there, it would just be any other rum. But because we've got those kind of rich Demerara molasses notes coming off that, that is really, really good. And I think that's where it kind of sits. It's definitely for me a tiki rum, a rum that you have in your collection for those sort of cocktails. It might even be a Mai Tai rum. It's just really, really good. So as much as you can enjoy sipping that neat, I think there are way better rums to sip neat, but there aren't many rums that I would compare that to have in fruit cocktails. That's where I'm kind of conflicted at the moment. So my questions to sum up. Would I buy it again? Is it value for money? Is there another rum similar that I would buy? Would I buy it again? If I was doing a lot of tiki cocktails, it would be a permanent restock. It would be in my collection because I do not think there is another rum behind me that does the job of that. Even other DDL rums, the Pussers, the Woods, bearing in mind they're overproof, the Goslings, the Myers, even they do not do that same job for me. Those rich Demerara notes, I do not get that. The closest rum I've got for a rum punch that I think would be the Plantation OD, Jamaica and Barbados rums in there. I think the sort of bouncing off Jamaica, off the Barbados notes, I think would be close, but I still don't think you get the kind of rich Demerara notes off that. So on that alone, if I was a big tiki fan and a big fruit punch cocktail fan, I think that is a must stock. If that's not the sort of drink that I have, possibly not a restock, because I think there are better rum and cokes. I think there's definitely better rum and gingers, definitely better rum daiquiris, and rum fashions, all right, at 30 quid, it's all right. But for rum fashion, if you really like that vibe, just spend close to an extra tenner on the El Dorado 12-year-old. So that's where I'm going to kind of leave this video. it's definitely a nice one. If, as I say, if that's your vibe, definitely, I think it's a must have. If these are your vibes, I think you can probably do better.